Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of the First Nations and Native American peoples. Here where I am in Vancouver, those peoples are the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. But I know where many of you are, you're on the land of other nations. Always, but especially during this difficult time, let us remember our connection to our sisters and brothers in these nations and pray for the day in which we might be with them in right relationship. Welcome. Welcome to Living Interfaith. Know that the whole of you is welcome. You're not asked to leave who you are in your own homes. Please bring who you are in with you. But what you are asked to remember is that everyone around you has brought who they are in with them as well. And all of goodwill are welcome. Let us sing.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come, 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 whoever you are. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again, come, whoever you are. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've ours is your caravan of despair. Come yet again,
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I have just a few announcements. One is that Reconciliation Canada is still hosting the Bring Our Children Home Exploring Grief and Anger series. It's held every Saturday and Tuesday for these few weeks. So it's taking place right now, but the next one will be on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And you can learn more about it if you go to the site here. I'll just put it in the chat. I don't know if anyone's gotten to attend that yet from our group, but it sounds very important. Queerest and Dearest is an all-day camp for queer children and adults and their family members. It's being hosted this year by St. Barnabas Anglican Church. It's open to all our members and loved ones and everyone in the surrounding community. This year is going to take place on Monday, August 2nd. It's an all-day event, so it's from 9:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And if you want to register or send the link along, it's right here. I just put that in the chat as well. And finally, our friends from the LDS community work together every year, gathering as much food as they can across BC for the annual Thanksgiving food drive. All the food goes towards the food banks throughout the province. This year, the collection day is on Saturday, September 25th. So if you and or your faith community want to be involved, they'd love the support. So it's open to everyone. And the more food we can collect, the better. And I'll put that link in the chat as well. So I think those are the only events I know that are happening right now. Does anyone have any others that they'd like to share with the group? Okay, thanks so much. Let's come into silence for a moment. Samir, would you be willing to share Surah Al-Fatiha?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم الصراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. صدق الله العظيم.
Beautiful. Thank you. And in English, it means I seek shelter in Allah from the accursed Shaitan. In the name of God, the infinitely compassionate and merciful. Praise be to God, Lord of all the worlds, the compassionate, the merciful, ruler on the day of reckoning. You alone do we worship, and you alone do we ask for help. Guide us on the straight path, the path of those who have received your grace, not the path of those who have brought down wrath, nor of those who wander astray. Amen. Where in our hearts is that burning of desire? It is true we are made of dust, and the world is also made of dust, but the dust has motes rising. Whence comes that drive in us? We look to the starry sky, and love storms in our hearts. Whence comes that storm? The journey of love is a very long journey, but sometimes with a sigh, you can cross that vast desert. Search and search again without losing hope. You may find sometime a treasure on your way. My heart and my eyes are all devoted to the vision. From Muhammad Iqbal. Now, if you'll join me in a passing of the peace, let's share peace with everyone. So say something like, peace be with you as well. Salam alaikum wa alaikum assalam. Salam alaikum, everyone. Peace be with you.
Alaikum assalam and Eid Mubarak in advance.
Assalamu
Peace to
alaikum.
all.
Peace, everybody.
Peace to you all.
Peace, everyone.
Peace, everyone. Thank you. Now let us sing.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك
Thank you so much. Now, if you'll join me in our joint affirmation. We come together in peace. We sing together in joy and with love. We worship together in one house, a house with names beyond number. Our paths are many, our beliefs are as leaves, and the tree that we cleave to is nourished by the light of compassion, justice, and mutual respect. May our lives, our beliefs, and our actions help to bring about the world of love we all seek. And let it begin here. Thank you. As always, there are so many things we should be praying for right now. I know we all have a lot on our hearts, hopefully some joys as well. Just seeing the news, seeing about the massive flooding in Western Europe and the drought conditions here on the West Coast of North America and so many other places. I think praying for the planet would be really important right now. So if we just take some time to either pray for the planet or anything else that's on our hearts. Thank you. We'll pray in our own homes and in our own ways for a few moments. Thank you. Now let us sing.
صلاتي وسلامي لرسول الله الحمد لله والشكر لله الحمد لله والشكر لله أصل صلاتي وسلامي لرسول الله أصل صلاتي وسلامي لرسول الله الحمد لله والشكر لله الحمد لله والشكر لله.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, as I often say, this is when I'd usually pass around a basket. In lieu of that, we do have a donation page. I'll put the link in the chat. So many of you donate so generously, and we're just very, very, very grateful for all your support of our community. So thank you. And also, as always, Doctors Without Borders could use some support. They're doing such important work around the world. I know Cynthia was thinking of volunteering with them. So if you do, please share. We'd love to hear. And are there any other causes that could use some support, financial or otherwise, at this time?
Just because we're talking about what our Indigenous peoples are going through, I'm unaware of Canada's groups, but if you happen to live in the United States, there's the Lakota People's Law Project, which is fighting the good fight, important fight for the Indigenous peoples who have been so trampled. Their rights continue to be trampled. And if you happen to live in the United States, and I don't, again, I'm sure there must be a Canadian example of this, but the Lakota People's Law Project, they could use your help.
Brilliant. Thank you. I know up here we had donated some money, the sanctuary donated some money to the Indian Residential School Survivor Society. They could certainly use some help.
Another one that is a favorite of mine, if you are in Canada, is Raven, Respecting Aboriginal Values and Environmental Needs. And they have a major project supporting the health people in a court case against the Canadian government right now. And so that's another really good one.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And now when you're ready, let us sing.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Bruce and Cheryl. And now it's my joy to turn it over to Samir. We'd love to hear from you, hun.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Just a quick background first. There's two major holidays celebrated by most Muslims around the world. Eid al-Fitr, which marks the end of Ramadan, which is the Muslim month of fasting, and Eid al-Adha, which marks the climax of the annual pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina, which are located in present-day Saudi Arabia. This year, Eid al-Adha is on Tuesday, July 20th, a day after Kathy's birthday. A common greeting used by Muslims on that day is Eid Mubarak. Of course, different greetings are used in different countries, and different groups have different ways of observing the occasion. Even the name differs between countries. In India, where I was born, the holiday is actually called Bakri Eid by most people, and that means Feast of the Goat. And this reflects the fact that many people, most Hindus in India, consider cows sacred, and also camels are not readily available in much of the country. There are at least like 15 other names for the festival in different parts of the Muslim world, and that's a reflection of the diversity of Islam. Frankly, I think this diversity is not something that many people in the West or a lot of people in the West aren't aware of. It should be self-evident that there is no way you'll ever get 1.8 billion people to agree on anything. Yet far too many people in the West think of Islam as a monolith. For instance, when my wife was first telling her extended friends and family in rural Pennsylvania that she was marrying a Muslim man, one of her aunt's first reactions was, "But then you won't be allowed to drive." Now there's 50 Muslim majority countries in the world, and there's exactly one that didn't allow women to drive at that time. And that aunt wasn't alone in that view. A neighbor of ours who'd known me for years admitted later that she also thought that this was the case. And you know, for those of you who know us well enough will know that this is particularly amusing because Kathy does almost all the driving in our family. I don't particularly like to drive. She gets car sick if she's like in the back seat, or you know, so pretty much every time we're together, she's the one driving. I've had a friend assume that I was talking to the kids in Arabic, even though she knew I was from India. I don't actually speak Arabic. I am able to read the script for the purposes of reading the Quran, but I don't speak or understand Arabic, which is actually puts me in the majority of Muslims, because about 3/4 of the Muslims in the world don't speak Arabic. I've had a neighbor assume that I was Middle Eastern because I'm Muslim, even though there are far more South Asian Muslims than there are Middle Eastern Muslims. Some of this is simple ignorance. Some of it is because Saudi Arabia is kind of seen as a representative of our faith, despite having only 2% of the world's Muslim population. There's reasons for that. You know, it's where the religion originated. It's where the two holiest, you know, locations in the two holiest places in Islam are located. But it's still a pet peeve of mine that they kind of get to represent my religion because they practice the most conservative version of the religion. And I'm sure this is, you know, a annoyance that other people also have about their own faith groups, where in many cases, you know, the most conservative voices end up speaking for your religion as a whole and being seen as representative as the whole. And often people outside your religious group, your religious community, don't understand that, in part due to the higher visibility of some of those groups, and also in part because of this cognitive bias that is known as Outgroup homogeneity bias, where people tend to assume that people outside their groups are like more similar to each other than people within your group. Of course, this perception is very much an illusion. There is dozens of denominations within Islam. It's not just Shia and Sunni, but let's break it down a little bit. You know, about 10 to 13% of Muslims are Shia. about 7% of Shia Muslims are Nizari Ismailis, as I am. Among Ismailis, there are those originating from South Asia, there are those originating from Central Asia, there are those originating from Syria. Each of them have their own distinct rites and customs. Among the South Asian Ismailis, there are those who moved to East Africa in the 19th and 20th centuries, those who moved to Pakistan after partition, and those who stayed in India. Some of the traditions of the latter groups have also begun diverging over time, and each group thinks that theirs is the original or correct practice. Even within the subgroup of a subgroup of a subgroup, there are further subgroups who don't like or look down on each other. And this is despite Nizari Ismaili Muslims being more cohesive than most other religious communities, both as a result of being smaller in number, having a central authority figure, the Aga Khan, and due to external persecution in a number of the places that we have lived in the past, and even in some of the places where we live today. Thankfully, Canada is not one of those places. The Aga Khan has emphasized that these differences are not, the differences between the different Ismaili communities are not only to be accepted, but to be celebrated as a source of strength within the community. This is also something that he's recognized Canada for more broadly, including by establishing the Global Center for Pluralism in Ottawa. Canada is made stronger by the many ethnic and religious communities within it. And I think this is true at both larger and smaller scales. For instance, most people nowadays recognize that children benefit from being bilingual. And similarly, I feel Inara and Amar benefit from being exposed to religions that provide somewhat different lenses through which to see the world. Many people talk about the similarities between different religions, but it is less common to hear people talk about the similarities between different denominations or interpretations within any given religion, other than maybe from the small number of people involved in ecumenical work. In fact, you usually hear more about the differences within those groups and arguments about who's right and who's wrong. This is the narcissism of small differences, perhaps best captured by the Emo Phillips joke, which starts off with one person trying to talk another one out of jumping off a bridge, trying to talk them out of it, and ends up with him pushing the other person off after finding out that he is Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Region Council of 1912 and not Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Region Council of 1879. Of course, this diversity is not unique to Islam. In 2014, Kathy and I were visiting her childhood priest. He had responsibility for a larger area now and complained that not only were the Italian Catholics and the Polish Catholics not willing to work with each other, but even the two Polish churches under his purview did not get along. I witnessed one of my favorite examples of such diversity of opinion in 2015, when Kathy and I were at the Gay Pride Parade in Seattle with a 12-month-old Inara on our shoulders. The Supreme Court had just legalized same-sex marriage, and the mood was celebratory. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, not usually thought of as being welcoming towards LGBTQ+ people, had a float in that parade. The young men on that float were dressed in pressed, long-sleeved white shirts and black pants, much as they would be if they were to knock on your door and ask if you'd heard of Jesus. Except they were wearing rainbow-colored ties and gyrating enthusiastically to the music. Maybe it's just me, but I feel that is a far better way to reach people. Similarly, some of the mullahs in Saudi Arabia and Iran say that Islam no longer has a position it once did in the world because we have gone wayward. We no longer practice the original unblemished form of the religion. They want you to return to the strict interpretation that they think was practiced in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But if you actually look at history, which is not something they like doing, If you actually look at when Islam was at its zenith, when it had the most political power, you see repeated examples of an Islam that was open and accepting. In Moorish Spain, where Christians and Jews lived largely in harmony with the Muslim population, in the Ottoman Empire, which accepted the Jews fleeing the areas when the Moorish Empire fell. I think that is the world we should all try to strive for. I hope everyone has a good and blessed Eid. Eid Mubarak to all. And that is the sermon.
Thank you so much. Very inspiring. It's really important for us to recognize that diversity in at all, like at every layer, and see how that can help us. Thank you so much. Friends, now let us sing one more song. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Bruce and Cheryl. It's so wonderful being with you all today. Eid Mubarak. Have a very blessed Eid. May you go out and just revel in the diversity that all our traditions and practices and backgrounds allow us. And hopefully we can learn from each other together. Take care, friends.
Thank you, Kathy.